الموت لأمريكا! الموت لأمريكا! الموت لأمريكا!
Malcolm X said, and I quote, "We live in one of the rottenest countries that has ever existed on this earth."
What do you think about the USA? What do you think about USA?
When I think about the USA, it should burn! Death to America!
Congresswoman Tlaib,
Fox News. I don't talk to Fox News.
at a rally in your district, people were chanting "Death to America." Do you condemn?
Talk to Fox News.
Do you condemn chants of "Death to America"?
I don't talk to people that use racist tropes.
You have all these proxy wars going on. What's happening in the Caribbean with Venezuela, what's happening with Iran, what's happening with Russia, and all these different allied forces fighting with each other. That's the definition of a world war. And that's what all of the mainline analysts are saying. If this really is World War IV, that's what the Pentagon is actually calling it in the academic papers that the United States is fighting right now. China just cut off all rare earth mineral exports to anybody that works for the U.S. They control 95% of it, okay? The globalists allow them to be in positions like that.
So what happens if China successfully cuts off rare earth mineral supplies to the U.S. for a protracted period of time? Is this really the apocalypse for our war machine in many respects? Or is this all just sort of tut-tutting by the Chinese in lieu of getting a good deal from us?
Yeah, I don't think the defense industry will get rare earths from now on. It's not a ban.
Wow.
Commercial industry,
Wow.
yeah, commercial industries will get it. But you had a major car maker here go down. They shut down this a few months ago for 2 months. They didn't have the rare earth magnets from China. They got restarted, but like they literally had to get Trump on the phone to call China. So the defense industry won't get it. They're going to put export control. So China is a very controlled economy. You have to have licenses for importing, for exporting. They're going to make sure, okay, Ford, you're going to buy, or GM or whoever, you're going to buy 50,000 rare earth magnets that has X amount of grams of rare earth. That's all you're getting. So they're going to make sure this doesn't go into the U.S. defense supply chain. I think that's kind of a given. I don't think they're going to get any.
This is absolutely out of control.
As commander of U.S. Army Pacific, you saw this firsthand in Alaska. What did you see?
I took an intelligence briefing. And I was stunned to find out the amount of penetrations that had been happening at our bases up there by Chinese nationals that were in the United States. These individuals were going to the gate. Some of them were getting into the installations. And when they were getting into the installations, they would have cameras and unmanned aerial vehicles in the trunks of their cars. And these things were also happening off the installations, flying in and around our installations, in and around our training areas. We have an enormous training area up in Alaska. The Donley and Yukon training areas is probably the largest ground and airspace that we have in the United States Army, and it's in Alaska. And so Russia and China are serious about their activities up there. I think Russia has always been serious about it. I think China has woken up to its seriousness about it because of the gains that it can be made. And then I also think that securing our northern flank from threats, be they missile or be they economic threats where we don't have access of our reach over the Arctic Ocean, and that we get penetrated by adversaries in ways that would put the United States and the Western Hemisphere at risk.
So we're in the New World War. And that's what all the big think tanks have been saying for a couple of years. But now it's official, okay? You've got all these different proxy wars going on. This is the New World War. Now, the CIA called the Cold War World War III. I agree with that term. This is really World War IV. And it's getting kinetic. It's economic. It's cultural. And it's incredibly dangerous. You'll be laying in your bed one night. You'll be driving down the highway after work. And there'll be big flashes you see. And then 10 seconds later, your car is going to be overturned, probably on fire. And then life as you know it's over. You won't get back to your family. There'll be mass starvation and death. And there'll be a new literal dark age with enough dust in the atmosphere to cause a mini ice age. And they estimate 7 billion people will die in a nuclear war. There'll be maybe 500 million left, which is what these death cult people fetish all day long. This is horrific.
Welcome to the show. It's March 18th, Wednesday night, 2026.
Thank you for being here. Wanted to come on for a little short broadcast and just cover the Joe Kent thing, the war, a little bit about the war, and then we'll get out of here for the night. And then we'll be back on Friday night. But if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please let everybody know that I'm here and share this information everywhere. It's only because of you that everybody finds out that I'm even here. And I'm doing my best to bring you just the news and not a bunch of bullshit. So that's what we're going to do. And that's what we've been doing. And we have special guests that come in on most evenings, and we cover, different things, whether it's war or collapse or how to survive food or, masculinity or, we cover a lot of different things here if you're new. So tonight we're going to cover this bullshit that's going on with Joe Kent and how he stepped down from National Counterterrorism Director and what we know about it. And what we know is he's going to get buried. This is what they do when you go against the narrative, whatever the narrative is, and the narrative right now is a war. And it's everybody else's fault, and that's where we're at. So this is what we're up against right now. And if you think that it's going to be, a couple weeks bombing another country, and then it's just going to kind of fade away and die out, all the experts say this is not going to end. And if it does, it's not going to end well. Iran has already said that they're not ready to do anything except for continue to fight. And so we're going to get into a little bit of it. But first, let's do the topic at hand. Joe Kent resigns. He went on Tucker Carlson today. We're going to cover the Fox News, how they're talking about how he's the most horrible person, leaking documents or leaking and all this stuff, which is not true. We even, I believe we have Trump talking about how he was weak. Now, if you don't know who Joe Kent is, very highly decorated officer, and 11 tours, 11 Navy SEAL, CIA. He's very very competent. And what his letter said was that he was not comfortable, and we'll get into it right now in a second. But he was not comfortable with this war because he could not find, and he's the counterterrorism director. He said that Iran was not a threat. And if you remember back a few months ago, there was this thing going on where Tulsi Gabbard had said that there was not a threat, but then Trump's administration was saying there was a threat. So there was this back and forth already going on. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but when Charlie Kirk's murder happened, Joe Kent was trying to investigate it, and Cash Patel shut it down. So there's been this back and forth going on within the upper ranks of the Trump administration for a while, and here we are. And whether he stepped down because he just can't get into a forever war for no reason, or he's seen stuff that was going on within the administration that he couldn't handle anymore, whatever the case, he stepped down. So we're going to get into it. And where do we start? We're going to start well, let's get into this Fox News. We'll start over here. A couple people talking about it, and then what Trump says, and then we'll get into what Joe Kent said. Okay. So let's start right here.
I'm going to go. Sources are saying that Joe Kent, the former director of the United States National Counterterror Center, this is from Semaphore, he just resigned. He's now under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. And the investigation predates his departure. Congressman, your reaction to that tonight? Wow.
Well, there's a lot there, and I think that we need to let this investigation play out, but we shouldn't tolerate any leakers in the administration, particularly regarding classified national security interests and information. So we'll let this play out and see where it goes. But if he was leaking, he ought to be held accountable just like anybody else would be.
Well, 5 minutes ago, he seemed to think that Iran was a big threat, and then suddenly that threat went away. It was very odd. Congressman, thank you very much. Great.
Well, let's cover that first. Let's just clear that up. Now, when you're in an administration, or when you're not in an administration and you're getting only information from your sources as a civilian, and you're like, yeah, Iran needs, this needs to happen, blah, blah, blah. And then you get in the office and you see all the intel and your thought process changes. That means that you're doing your job, right? When you look at it, you see it, and you're like, oh, well, there's no threat. There isn't a threat. And if you don't, I don't know if the clip was AI or not, but Gabbard came out like 2 weeks ago talking about, or a week and a half ago talking about how this was uncalled for, blah, blah, blah. And then now she's changed her tune a little bit, but she might have changed her tune because she's got like a gun to her head, or she's in the administration and she don't want to end up like Joe Kent, who is going to get buried because he went against the narrative, which is whatever the administration says is the narrative. So we know that. We've seen it as it's played out with all these other people that have left. The first thing that Trump does, he comes out and he says, and I've always been a Trump supporter, and every day I lose, I'm losing my cool with Trump every day that he does this kind of stuff. He went after MTG, he went after Massey, he's went after a bunch of people that have left, and this is his MO. If they don't follow his narrative, whatever it is, then they're a piece of shit. And I think that's wrong. I think that he stepped down respectfully. He said, it was a pleasure being in the position, but he couldn't do it. And we'll get into it right now in a minute. See which one is it. Let's do this one first. Stand by.
DNI Tulsi Gabbard has responded to Joe Kent, saying Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. Tell you what, blink twice, Tulsi. Blink twice if they have a gun to your head. Jesus. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence and provide the President, Commander-in-Chief, with the best information available to inform his decisions. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posted an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. Like, yeah, I guess that's kind of what happened. A little bit. Was it real, though? I mean, was it true? I guess what matters is, was it true, though? Just crazy. And Shoe at Shoe on Head. Hi, Tulsi. Are you still selling these? I'd love to buy one. It's a shirt that just says "No War with Iran" from January 5th, 2020. The damn shame what's happened to our country. The good news is we've got a very simple solution. It's got simple and obvious and readily apparent solution. It is extricate with extreme malice all of the foreign influence in our federal government, to prosecute anybody shown to be working in any way with a foreign government, Israel included, to completely eradicate AIPAC and the ADL and any of these other ethno-supremacist organizations that use immense amount of government money, by the way, to try to destroy our ability to speak freely, tell the truth, or even understand the world around us. We have to use the power of our government. It has to get in the hands of true American patriots. How we get to that point is going to be difficult because so far, at this point, all of the levers of political power are firmly in the hands of our enemies. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a bit of a fight. I think we can do it, though. I think if the American people come together and treat this with just a modicum of seriousness, just a percentage of the seriousness with which our enemies treat this, I don't think it would be an issue. The problem is that we've got no organization like that. But once it starts up, It'll be very effective. It'll be very, very effective.
I wanted to cover that. I wanted you to see that where Cash Patel slammed the investigation on Charlie Kirk. We're going to get into the Charlie Kirk this weekend, just so you know. We're going to go do kind of a deep dive into the Charlie Kirk thing that we are not going to let go. We're not. We're not going to let it go. We're not going to let the Epstein files go. We're not going to let the Charlie Kirk thing go. Just be mindful that we're going to get into it, and we might break some hearts and hurt some feelings, and we don't really care because what's important is the truth, and that's all that's important. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so now. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Let's get into this. I think we're going to do the Nick Fuentes first, and then we're going to do the Tucker Carlson one. I think it's important that we cover. Actually, yeah, we're gonna do the Donald Trump. I'm gonna back it up with the Nick Fuentes clip, and then we'll come back and then we'll do the what happened, the one little short 3-minute clip with Tucker and Joe Kent that happened a couple hours ago. Stand by.
Mr. President, your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars? You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they sent hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had 2 of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat. You know, we're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
Mr. President.
So you always thought that your own nominee to be the director of the Counterterrorism Center was bad on security. So why then did you appoint him in the first place? That doesn't even make any sense. And see, this is where you got to say about Trump, I'm done with this guy. Are you kidding me? So Joe Kent, by the way, is totally correct about this. This is a complete break from America First foreign policy. And that is why people signed up. This is why people voted in 2016, 2020, and 2024. There are a lot of people that voted 3 times because of this, because they wanted an end to the endless wars, specifically in the Middle East. Not in Cambodia, not in Congo, not in Pakistan, but in the Middle East. And these Israel-driven wars against Israel's enemies. People voted 3 times because they wanted Americans to stop dying in Syria, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and elsewhere. And Trump has obviously broken with that as he has plunged America into a war of choice, a war of aggression, something that was totally unnecessary. It's not a preemptive strike because it didn't preempt anything. It wasn't in self-defense because we were never attacked. It wasn't about securing a vital American interest because it's hard to parse what interest is outweighed by a regime change war in a mountainous country 3 times the size of Iraq with a population of 90 million. So Joe Kent is correct. You broke your promise. You betrayed America first. Consequently, he's stepping down. And what does Trump say? Well, he was always bad on security. Really? Then why did you appoint him to be the director of counterterrorism if he was so bad on security? You liar. You utter liar and deceiver and traitor. What does that even mean? We was always bad on security. Okay, so then you should be impeached for treason. Because either every word out of your fat, disgusting mouth is a lie, or you committed treason. You appointed somebody to run the Counterterrorism Center that, in your own words, you had no confidence in. You thought he was always bad on security, so that's a dereliction of duty. You should be impeached. You plunge us into a war with Iran where there's a high risk of sleeper cells on U.S. soil activating. You bomb Iran all the time. We're in a heightened state of security because of what has been happening. And you appoint someone that's always been bad on security to defend the homeland and run counterterrorism. Okay, then you should be impeached. Or you're a liar, in which case you should also be impeached. It's too much. It's too much at this point. I've just had it up to here. I can't tolerate anymore. I'm not a stupid person. I'm not a dummy. And I'm not a sycophant either. I can be a very loyal person, and I understand that there is some deference that is owed to the leader of any organization, of any movement, but this is bullshit. This is insulting. This is insulting to the intelligence of every American. This is insulting to the dignity of every American soldier. You sit there in the Oval Office and you say, well, I always thought he was bad on security. Hey, dumbass, who appointed him then? Do you even think before you speak, or do you think nobody's paying attention or nobody cares? It's disgusting.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot more with this. This is the first day. So it's going to, there's a whole bunch of people talking and they're arguing, and some people are saying, oh, this, all this back and forth, and we should have flattened them and all this stuff. And, this is not going to be one of those things where you just go in and tear something up and just get out like what was it? Maduro. Let's listen to what Joe Kent has to say with Tucker. Listen to what he says. I mean, we've been talking about this for 2 weeks, about The way this went down was not done right. No plan. The way they went in there with no end result except for just they figured they were just go in there and blow them up. Now the Straits of Hormuz is closed, and fuel prices go up every day. Oil is today 110. By the end of the week, 150, or by the weekend, by Monday, 150. I mean, it just keeps going up. It was 101, and then it shot up 9. It's crazy. This is what we're gonna get. And if you're not prepared, and this is, I guess, I give my plug. Go in the description for the stream and go to My Patriot Supply. Use that code there in the description and just check it out. Maybe get you a water filter. With the extra water filters you get, I mean, they're relatively inexpensive. Get a couple 90-day supplies of restorable food so that when the lights go out and people start going crazy, you should go back to about 2022 when I did that. I wish I can't remember what it was called. I have to go back in the archives and look for that. I wish I had some guys here that I could just send in the back, go through some of the old shows. I did a show on what happens when the lights go out. 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, and how it turns to bedlam so fast when there's no water, power, food, fuel, and how it turns into Mad Max within 10 days. People start eating each other. You know what I mean? It's like, because remember, most Americans right now don't have a backup. They don't have like a freezer full of food, or they don't have like a bunch of extra cash just laying around, because they're living 60% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. And when it gets shut off, what are they going to do? It's going to turn crazy fast. So anyway, My Patriot Supply in the description. Just check it out, man. If you get in there, maybe you'll find some stuff that you can do. They have payment plans. You got to get prepared. I would go to Smart and Final or whatever place you have that sells beans and rice in bulk. Get you a couple 50-pound bags of rice and beans. So that way, if you have kids, at least you can feed them something when there's nothing. Because within a week, man, the stores will be empty. The windows will be bashed out. Look what they did over toilet paper. I'm just letting you know where we're at. This is just where we're at. Let's listen to what Joe Kent and Tucker talk about. And it's about 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes. Stand by.
I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask you to pause? Sure. And so I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time. And then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so that is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there. And he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said, we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. Now, I think there's a potential there where we could have done several different things. We could have simply said to the Israelis, no, you will not. And if you do, then we will take something away from you. I think that it's fine that we offer defense to Israel, but when we're providing the means for their defense, we get to dictate the terms of when they go on the offensive. Otherwise, they stand to lose that relationship. And the Israelis felt emboldened that no matter what they did, no matter what situation they put us in, that they could go ahead and take this action, and we would just have to react.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're going to get into this on Friday and Saturday, but why? And I know I'm asking a $35,000 question that we all know the answer to, but I'm just going to say it. Why are we fighting for Israel? And I'm not anti-Semite and all that bullshit. I don't care. I only care about America first. So I have American flag, right? America. That's all I care about. I don't care about foreign countries. We've gotten drug into war after war after war after war after war behind these other countries and their wars, their political wars, their spiritual wars. I guess you call them spiritual war. These because that's what they're always fighting over. Whose God is the best God, all that stuff that they fight over. Now, we're going to get into this in the next few days. I'm going to put my head to the grind and get into this. What I want to do now, though, is I want to show you what's happening with the gas prices. And then I want to show you what's going to happen to the famine and with famine and stuff in a short amount of time. So I'm just going to play a couple clips. I'm going to play them back to back, and then I'll cut this one short, the Mike Adams one short. Won't play the whole thing. It's 15 minutes. I'm just going to play a few minutes of it until the break of it, and then I'll stop, and then I'll be back. So stand by.
A lot going on the last 24 hours in oil, and some of the big companies are getting increasingly nervous. How's the trading been, and what are the thoughts from folks in the industry, sir?
This huge day today, because all night and early this morning, crude oil, both crude and North Sea Brent were lower. And then the Iranians said every single Gulf state oil platform, refining capacity, they were all potential targets. It started to drift up, and then Saudi Aramco, you're right, Steve, when Saudi Aramco, the Saudi state/private public entity, which is mostly private, mostly the state, decided to shut in their refinery, their big refinery, the Shamraf refinery. It's a massive refinery. That sends a signal that doesn't matter which side of this you're on, these Middle Easterners are going to pull in production. They're going to pull in oil production. They're going to pull in petroleum product production, gasoline, heating oil, jet fuel, butane, all those, helium. They're going to shut that in because it drives prices up. We were trading about $102 a barrel in the Brent this morning. So it's up $110 a barrel right now. WTI is trading around $99 a barrel. We're going to hit 100. The reason why this is relevant, Steve, is all last week when we were talking, I said $4 is a lock, and people are like, "Oh, Bowling, you're full of it. We'll see what happens." I said, "No, it doesn't matter what happened last week. Even if it ended then, $4 was locked." I'm now going to say $4.50 national average for gasoline is, I would say, an 80% likelihood of happening. That further drives up inflation. We had a price PCI number come out today saying that inflation was higher than expected. And that doesn't even include the March run up in oil. We're going to have higher inflation. We have massively higher gas prices. Steve, I talked to the head trader. I can't say his name. I'll call him one of the head traders at Conoco, which is a massive oil production company. One of the best. He says And when oil was lower yesterday and into last night for today's trading, he said oil is going to be up $1 to $2 a barrel going forward. And the equity markets don't even understand what that means yet, meaning they're kind of whistling past the graveyard with higher oil prices. It's going to really, really, really be a damper on spending and therefore on stock prices. So equities will likely go down in response to it. So all things right now, unfortunately, are pointing to higher oil prices. And then when you start playing around Carg Island, I totally disagree with this. I think we should protect Carg Island because that's really the main asset that the Iranians have to export oil. Now, I know we want to bring them to their knees, but we also don't want a oil price shock going into the midterms. So basically, the expense of.
Well, I don't think any plan for Carg Island is not to destroy the oil facilities. I think it's to take, seize, and hold, and then the United States. It's the first step to your plan, brother. It's the first step to say, hey, we're your partners. Since we control Carg Island, let's sit down and negotiate how we're going to partner with you.
And Michael Yan has predicted accurately and repeatedly that in a war with Iran, the Strait of Hormuz would be closed. And that when that happened, there would be catastrophic effects, including engineered global famine. He said it numerous times. He held up books about famine numerous times. Trump didn't listen. Trump should have listened to Michael Yan. If he had, he wouldn't have started this war, and we wouldn't be facing the potential starvation affecting billions of people potentially around the world if this thing continues for months. We could be seeing food scarcity at a level that you've never witnessed, really impacting aggressively the countries that have marginal families that are just barely scraping by, just barely have enough to eat. When you raise their food prices 50% or 100%, or you reduce crop yields by 20 or 30%, which is exactly what's about to happen, as I've got in my research report here, I'll share that with you, then you start driving many people, marginalized people in these countries into extreme poverty and food scarcity. Food insecurity then breeds civil unrest. And that's when you start to get, revolts, upheavals, and revolutions. And by the way, right here in America, 60% of American households are just living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have an extra stash of money to cover a doubling of food costs. And they don't have stored food for the most part. I mean, you watching this, yeah, you have some amount of stored food, but the average American does not. And that means that when their food prices start to really skyrocket, which will happen in the fall, here we are in the planting season right now. So obviously there's a buffer delay of crop yields to work its way through the system. Right now, you're eating the food that was grown mostly last year, okay? That is in the Northern Hemisphere. But in the fall of this year, you'll be eating the food that was grown now. And that food is not going to have the same yields that it did last year. So that means that American families are going to be lining up at food banks like never before. They're going to be suffering higher food prices, reduced food supply, and there we go, 45 million homes at risk if Iran war continues, 45 million more at risk, excuse me. I would say that's a very small number compared to what my research shows. We're looking at potentially, if this goes on long enough, billions of human beings across numerous countries, including India, that will face food scarcity. And the situation is going to become dire.
This is a bad move. This is a bad move. This was not one of Trump's better judgments. And whoever is giving him this information on what to do, Bibi Netanyahu or whoever it is, what they did is they screwed us, because what happens is they sit pretty over there with their, bunkers and all that stuff. And then we're over here starving, or we're over here with $7 gas. It's so let's if $4 or $4.50 is the cap for fuel, $4.50. Okay, it's probably $3, $2.50, $3 wherever you're at. For us in California, it's over $5 right now. So you add another $2 that puts our fuel around $7.58 a gallon. So yeah. I guess the electric car is going to be really popular until they shut the power off. Anyway, so subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. YouTube, I'm on YouTube, Rumble, Getter, X. We're also on Kick and what the hell is it called? Twitch. We're doing a trial run to see how long we could stay on those two before we get booted off. We'll be back on Friday. God bless everybody. We hope that you're paying attention to what's going on and you're doing some preparation to be prepared for what's coming. Because if like Mike Adams said, at this point, with just because the fertilizer is going to be hard to come by, crops for the following year are going to be scarce. That's what he's talking about with yields, because you might be able to have the stuff that's planting now for the spring or the fall, but after that, it's going to dry up. So the next season is going to be scarce. So anyway, what happens here right now affects us in the following year. So anyway, God bless you all. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out My Patriot Supply in the description, and we'll see you on Friday. God bless you. Good night.